Okay,
know.
we're rolling.
So I don't know.
Okay, Sacha, what's your name? What's the biz? How's the gossip? You know a guy, a friend of mine called Larry Warren.
Oh God, yes, I do.
Tell us all about Larry, and you got.
I can't possibly tell you all about Larry. Sue me. I sworn to secrecy.
In Rendlesham, wasn't there, fairly recently?
Yeah, we did. We went to Woodbridge. I think the event really was on the Friday night when we all got together. But yeah, the conference was quite good.
So that's September, isn't it? September first.
It was 9/11, yeah, and
2011.
this sort of marked the occasion. I mean, I think they might do it every year. You know, I think they've done it the past couple of years, but my circumstances have sort of dictated that I can't, I can't run away from my kids. But no, it's great. Great bunch of people. Met some people I've been talking to on Facebook as well, who all contactees, and really nice, genuine folk. We all got a bit merry on the Friday. I don't think we're as rock and roll as we like to think we are. But yeah, I don't know. It's quite a strange weekend.
So how did you get into the Rendlesham Forest thing? What brought you into the story?
I've been trying to remember recently. It's like, I think...
It seems to have been quite a big part of your life.
Yeah.
Sacha, who are you? What do you do?
Even I don't know that. I don't even know what I am or if we're even here. But no, I've been basically in 97. I had an encounter with 2 UFOs with some other people, and that sent me over the edge. Went a bit crazy with it. But in 2005, I broke my knee and decided to buy a computer because I couldn't, work or walk or anything. I was really bored. And went on and I thought, right, I've got my email address now, what? I thought, I know, UFO magazine, the first thing that pops into mind because I used to buy the magazine, liked it. And I found a forum, which was nothing to do with the actual magazine, it was just somebody cheekily, taking the domain name when it came up. I think they've been had their wrist slapped for that now anyway. But so I started talking on that and I got a good reception from a few people. And so I just started talking. I'm still friends with them all now. And that was it really. As I kind of divulged that I'd had an experience but didn't say anything about any abductions, you kind of put your toe in the water, don't you, first? And that's that whole, you changed your story. It's like, no, I just didn't tell you the half of it in the first place. And I think that's where Larry gets his, gets shot in the neck because he didn't go blah, 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 blah about everything in the first instance. So when you start adding things to it, when you get a bit braver and you think, oh, nobody shot me in the head or, I'll say I laughed at him too much.
Essentially, you're talking about Larry being written out of the picture.
Well, it was blatantly being written out of the picture. But I don't actually remember how I got into it. I do remember a friend of mine, Dave, taking me to, I think it was a probe conference or Lapis when Larry was talking, and I met him there. Then I went to see him somewhere else. Oh, that was it. Picked him up from Liverpool with Peter Robbins and took him to the Weird Weekend when they were talking there. That was a riot as well. But I don't know really. It just fascinated me. I think it's because it's still living. Is this case? It's not.
Yeah.
The people are still alive. They're all talking about. They can all remember it. They're all contactable. They're all available.
He made.
Yeah.
It's got more evidence than Roswell.
Well, this is it. I mean, I started going on the Rendlesham Forest Incident Forum, which is just a big board of bitches, basically. Absolutely riddled with psyops. Every single conversation gets turned into something else. They all fall for it, and they're all chasing their own tails all the time. Well, basically, you start talking about something on the forum, and then somebody will come in and they'll go, oh, that wasn't the case because so-and-so, so-and-so, and then everybody goes, no, and then it's like, but you said this before, and you said that before, and and it's like, oh my God, you're just going around in circles. The Rendlesham Revolving Door is what I call that site. And people just talk privately. I got so many messages in private because they just don't talk on the forum because no one's allowed to have an opinion on anything on there, and if they do, when it went quiet for a bit because I kept saying, well, you're doing this and you're falling for that and blah blah blah, and and then when the whole thing about this reunion was coming up, and I was told by Phil Mantle that he was putting a conference on, so I said, well, is Larry speaking? He went, no. He said, this was in Facebook chat, he said, if Larry comes, Larry ruffles feathers, and I'm worried that if he comes, certain people won't come.
Oh, right.
And I was like, well, it's not a reunion then, is it? You know.
No.
And so I told Peter, and I thought, well, this is a bit disgusting, really. You know, oh, he said, Larry's talking this year, so he'll have already had some exposure, which is not what it's about anyway. So I told Peter, and Peter spoke to Phil, and Phil said to him, it was a purely financial decision. So I was like, oh, so I just went on the forum, I'm sick of you lot, I'm sick of it, everybody just trampling all over each other to get to the top, and what are you giving each other awards for, you know, like, what have you solved, what have you done about this, that and the other. It's all just a big bunch of rubbish. And so then there was another, that got scrapped, and then there was another one being put on, and he hadn't got an invite to that, and then Linda Moulton Howe jumped in with her sticky fingers and was all over it because John had come out of the woodwork, and
that was a history channel.
Jim had come crawling out with his binary code book, and you know, and I got,
It was
and
December 2010, wasn't it?
what this
The reunion, the 30-year
Yeah.
reunion, yeah.
So I said basically this is an absolute sham because, you know, Larry's carried this story 27 years, and you've all jumped out onto it now, and it's like, right, thanks for that, off you go, we don't need you anymore, or whatever. You know, and so I said, right, well, I'll tell you what, Larry, I'll put on a conference for all those misfits, you know, the ones that have been doing all the hard work for these people. And I said, I'll call it Left Out at Eastgate. And I told everyone. And I put it on Linda's page, and when I brought out the interrogation that somebody had found that was like hidden underneath, it's like the Holt recording that's online has been recorded over the top of something that sounds like very much like an interrogation. And somebody had...
How do you detect that? Is it under
I didn't detect it, it was this guy, and he did it, and he's a naval officer, and he was, you know, saying that he'd heard this, that and the other, and he wrote the whole transcript out, and in where he could hear all the different things. So I put that on Facebook, and within an hour she'd said, it's a load of rubbish, blah, 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 whatever. And I went, well, you haven't even had time to look at it. You know, that's not being an investigative journalist. So the whole thing just kicked off royally. And, you know, I brought up the fact that she had transcribed a tape of a conversation that they'd had 24 years ago that Larry had never heard. You know, and she's sending it all, you know, transcribed to him, and he's got to comment on it, and I'm, you know, sort of correcting spellings and grammar and whatever, and sorting it all out and sending it back to her. And then he's getting requests for responses of the first one. And in the end, there were 11 pages of this stuff that she sent to me. And to be honest, I didn't even open the last sort of 7 because I thought, well, he's not even going to respond to this. Why should he? I said to her, can we have a copy of this conversation so that he can hear his intonation and blah, blah, blah. And then, no, nothing. And then I'm going on to I'm going on to her site to have a look at the pages, and you have to pay $40. So I was like, this is disgusting. This is not yours. You know, you can't just take it and start charging people, taking everybody's work and evidence and then calling it your own, and then saying, oh, you're going to sue people if they use this photograph or that photograph or this whatever. What a load of rubbish. So, and then you know, she made the pages free. So I went to have a look on the site, and there's like, oh, Jim Penniston, John Burrows, Steve LaPlume, Sergeant Neville's, no Larry Warren. Even though she sent 11 pages of this conversation, he was not included in the sighting as being there. Steve LaPlume wasn't even there that weekend. He was there 3 weeks later at a completely different incident with another person on a completely different gate on a different part of the base. And well, if that's not politics, then I don't know what is.
What incident was that?
When they saw a great big like cigar type thing coming over really low. Well, they'd seen a light bouncing up and down somewhere over the woods. And then the guy that was with called it in and said that Steve had seen it, and he went a bit mad, you know, and then this thing came over, and they went, well, we're not reporting that, I'm not saying anything. But one of the commanders and his family turned up in a car or Range Rover, I can't remember all exact details, and they're out and they've got cameras with them and saying, oh, and she says, oh, I hope we see one, you know, because this is like a few weeks after the main event. So, you know, but so he was included as part of the Rendlesham Forest incident when he wasn't at all. It was a completely different encounter. So that is not marginalised, but completely rubbed out of the picture.
And it's really interesting, isn't it, too, because you never hear about that other sighting.
There was one the year before.
Very
as well.
rarely, very rarely.
Yeah, they collected the tapes for that, the radar tapes for that in the November, October, which is why people think that there'd been a radar tape collected.
Yeah.
From that incident. I mean...
Well, that's classic disinformation. they get the facts, they get the right facts, mix them around,
Yeah.
so you've got a
Yeah.
bit of truth and mix the dates.
Well,
up.
it won't work without truth, so
No.
you can't walk.
No.
So, so then I had like pretty much all the 81st Regiment and all these people copying all our conversation onto the Rendlesham Forest, and I was like, oh God, you're such a bunch of bitches, and God, are you bored? You know, telling me that I'm trying to derail the case and that...
the Facebook site.
Yeah, this was John Burroughs told me I was trying to derail the case and that I wasn't allowed to investigate it anymore.
Oh, wow.
But I was like, well, I can't even repeat on camera what I said. But basically, you know, I said, there's nothing you can do to stop me, you know what I mean? It happened in England, and he was going on about patriotism. I said, it's got nothing to do with patriotism.
This is the main point about my investigation.
It's geography.
With Brenda's thing is that the English side of this whole thing has been completely wiped out.
Yeah, because we've got actual evidence. Brenda's got a lot of evidence. People should listen to Brenda. They should. I mean, you don't have to go with all the stuff in the woods that she says, which I do not doubt for one second, because I've had my own experience at Brenda's house, and there was a bit of a development on that actually this recently.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, no. Well, I'd gone down with John Hanson, funnily enough, and Dawn. Stay at Brenda's, go for a walk around the forest. It was Danette who would set it up because I was going to go see her, but you know, anyway, I ended up doing a few things over a few days, and so I ended up going down to Rendlesham and staying at Brenda's. As soon as I walked into the house, I got a funny feeling, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is a house of activity, you know, you can feel the difference. And I was kind of like aware of, it felt like something was, like, you know, like a draft.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like wishing past my face every now and again. And then we're looking at all the photographs and she'd got on her boards and stuff, and it was awesome. I've never seen anything like it before, never been anywhere like it before. I'd only been talking for about a year. It was all like, wow, you know. And so I felt like something had landed on my head and I started to feel ill. No, you know, really drained.
Yeah,
Well, I didn't know anything about any of this stuff then, you know what I mean? I was completely naive, like, ooh, wandering into everything without completely open and not even thinking that I was in any danger, which I have cultivated as a sensitivity to now, more or less.
Yeah.
But
You talk about one of the jellyfish type creatures?
no, I don't know what it was. I didn't see anything. I just felt like something had touched me on the head, and I felt quite drained and tired.
Yeah.
So I went to bed at some, I can't remember. We'd been talking a while and went to bed, and I laid down on I said they aren't protected me, so I was superstitious though. I've got a rosary bead that was made out of crystals, and I had like the cross in the palm, I'd put it around my hand, and I had this piece of blue kyanite up under my pillow. And I mean, don't look at me. I'm always everywhere anyway. So I got to bed and I laid down, and I felt the covers slide off. So I just went like that to pull it, you know, and it went out my hand, and I pulled it back, and it went again, and I sat up and I went, leave me alone, like this, and I laid over and tucked myself in with the covers, and my eyes would not open. They were like completely glued shut, and it was like they were, I don't know, I could feel that they would not open. It was weird. And then I felt something grab hold of my feet and pull like that, pull me down the bed. And I know it actually happened because this hair at the back of my neck here pulled on my pillow, and it hurt. I don't remember anything after that. I mean, I don't remember. I just don't remember.
But it was a really
anything.
strong pull.
Yeah, tug like that.
Yeah.
But at the bottom of the bed there was a wall and a window. There was not any room for anything. There was like a couple of deck chairs stuck between the bottom of the single bed and the wall.
Yeah.
And well, that was the end of it. You know what I mean? For me. And in the morning, I come running out of the bedroom and I was like, wild woman awoke. Something really weird happened last night. And she said,
did you fall asleep after that?
I can't remember.
Yeah,
I don't
you just
remember.
said as
And
far
I
as
would
you
never,
were-
I won't remember anyway, because to me
Yeah.
there's nothing
Yeah.
else to it, you know. And so she said, well, it ain't Mason, because Mason was locked in the bedroom with her, and John and Dawn were in the other.
Brenda's.
Yeah, Brenda's
lovely
dog.
dog.
Yeah. And so, you know, it was just another one of them weird experiences, like you have all sorts of different stuff happens here, you know. And then I was talking to this guy, Lee, a few weeks ago, who's been having experiences, and he was at the Expol conference in Leeds and got in touch with me and started telling me what had been going on with him, and he said that his first encounter was in Wales, which we worked it out geographically. It was 3.5 miles away from where I was in Wales with the people when it all went off in '97. But he said they came to the bottom of the bed and they took him by pulling on his feet.
Wow.
So I just went like, you know, and
Who were they? Did he get a look
the
at
little
them?
little people, just little people at the
Greys?
bottom.
What kind of
Well, yeah, they were greys, but I'm not going into his encounter because it's his stuff. But basically, it was a parallel to something that had happened to me that I couldn't explain. Still can't explain, obviously, but I mean, I just found it kind of ironic that his experience was when he was taken, he was initially pulled by his feet.
Yeah.
And because I just could never understand how that could have actually happened.
Yeah.
Because there was no room at the bottom of the bed. And then there was a wall, so I would have hit the wall, or it just didn't make any sense. So it was, you know, maybe it didn't happen, or, you know, because you can't. As time goes by, everything becomes quite dreamlike, and you're like, well, did it really happen like that? And it's not until somebody else says just a little off the cuff remark, or, you know, a statement, and you just think, oh my God.
And did you have any marks or notice?
I wouldn't have even looked at that time. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even looked.
Wouldn't notice.
I didn't know anything. Anything at all, really.
Yeah.
Thought I did. I thought it was all love and light, and oh, isn't that nice? Oh, I'm special. Well, like cattle.
Yeah. You've got some, just going back to the Rendlesham, because I'd really like to pick up on your Welsh experience, but I know we'd like to see the picture. You've got a picture with an extra person in it.
Yeah.
That when you said, have a look at this picture to Miles and, you know, what do you think? I mean, it looks like a picture with three people.
I'm quite happy for somebody to explain this.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to have a good and proven answer.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all right with people saying, well, it could be blah, blah, blah. Well, show me then.
Yeah,
Like
no,
they would say to me. I'm not just going to take any. I've had so many people. I mean, I've even had photographs put on Coast to Coast, and the emails that you get back, they're just, people are insane. I took a photograph of a fireball over Leeds, and I got told it was Nibiru. Nibiru. All right, I'll have to find the picture now because that's me and Brenda.
So when we see this picture, it's really interesting.
So the crucial thing about this picture is that there were 3 people in it, but there were only 2
There
people.
are only
actually
2
being
people
Yeah.
stood there. Well, actually, there's 3 in the background. You can see another person, but really, they're not actually.
No, they're not obvious in the photograph where. And it's really interesting too because it looks like you
So
can't. It looks like.
Let's be clear about this. You've got 3 people in that picture that's basically visible.
This is Jean,
Yeah.
and this is me. And this person is a mystery. There seem to be mimicking Jean. If it is if it's some kind of entity, then I don't think they're being threatening. I think they're having fun and just mimicking Jean. I mean, I don't understand camera technology. It was a digital camera, which works fine for 3 years and fine since, and never ever ever done anything like this before, ever, or since.
Has anybody seen that person before?
No.
Does anybody recognise?
No.
What's he looking at? What are you looking at?
Well, I don't know.
It's
It's
just
dark.
fine.
I mean, you just when you're in the forest, you're all just kind of like that, aren't you? Like stood
Why was
around.
that photograph taken? What were you
Just
photographing?
because, basically,
Who took it? If you're not
Ian, my ex Ian, and you just kind of bumble around the forest. You take pictures because there's
Just
quite
in case
often
something
there's
occurs.
just some crazy
Yeah.
stuff, you know,
Yeah,
like
that's true.
in this
Why have you taken
instance.
so many pictures? I mean, you got some more here on this.
Because strange things appear. I've seen Brenda take a photograph with her camera behind her head like that, and then her face is at a funny angle, right? A hat see-through, and and in the picture, but she's actually had the camera behind her neck. It's weird. I can't explain it. But here we've got this is broad daylight, and this is the path going up to Eastgate. Then this is it a few seconds later, and then again a few seconds later. Now there's some kind of electrical interference here,
Yeah.
right?
The exposure is completely different, just like.
And then this is a few seconds later again.
Wow. Look at that.
So, and then, you've got, again, orbs in focus, then electrical interference again. Electrical interference. Electrical interference. I have no idea. That's just a row of trees, but these are all, there's loads of, like, orbs.
Is that a smoky?
I couldn't even tell you. It could be some kind of light bleed from the trees, I suppose, but I don't really...
It's almost like a waterfall, doesn't it?
I don't know, but this is a fascinating picture because it's a light streak, but it's made up of circles like that. And there's no light source there whatsoever. And it looks like it's gone whoosh.
So that's just
From-
pitch black, is it? When the picture was taken, it's
Fairly, yeah.
dark
It was getting
anyway.
dark, yeah.
Getting dark, yeah. Yeah, interesting.
And then, that nobody was smoking. You don't smoke in a forest.
Smoky, definitely.
But you don't smoke in a forest, And if
Yeah.
you did, Brenda would chop your head off, completely.
So was that just taken into the kind of air, into just
Yeah.
the space?
And it's a photograph of Pete Parrish walking off, and then there's this kind of weird light streak that comes up.
That almost looks
With
like a
no
being,
light
doesn't it?
source.
Yeah.
There's no light sources. There's no torches on. Here I've got two faces. It's like me there. It's true. Okay. I got the evidence.
Yeah.
No, but
So,
I've
yeah.
got two faces. There's one there. I'm kind of looking down and looking up. Can't explain that. The rest of my body's all, fine, but just another head.
And on that other picture with the three, you were saying that it looks like the person in the middle, it just disappears. You've just got the torso.
Yeah,
Just
down to the
Yeah.
straps of the handbag.
and then it's gone. Yeah.
Very interesting. And then more interference. And you can see there's bits where we're in focus, partly in focus, but then other bits are not. And
When these events have happened, how many of you have there been? 2 or 3 or half a dozen? Or?
well, in this group there was me, Ian, Jean, Brenda, and Pete. And that was it. But I've been before when there's been more people there. But you don't tend to get as much, as many interesting things going on when there's more people there.
That's what I mean. It only takes 1 or 2 negative type people there, and it doesn't either happen. Is that right?
Well, I'd have to agree with that without saying any more. Yeah.
So that kind of goes along with what you were saying, Miles, about there being something still alive, living, or certain
There's an active energy.
an active energy. Yeah.
I think what it is that there's an underground base.
Yeah. A lot of people.
Well, I know
have said
that there is an
haven't they?
underground base. I
Yeah.
know I can't prove it, but yes, I have heard from somebody who would know, and I can't say
Yeah.
any names.
Hmm.
There's an underground rail network,
Yeah.
that connects the bases from Orford Ness. And I have that on
That's
very
out
good
to sea.
authority.
Isn't that out to sea
Yeah,
where they get the
That's the
submarines?
naval base. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
So there's definitely something underneath there. I'm absolutely convinced of it. It's
When
in
you
the
say
wash.
underneath there, are you referring to the twin bases?
To the
and
area, the entire
connection
area,
of the BT
yeah.
building, that great concrete thing which goes underneath, allegedly NSA. You're saying
Well,
it's
I wouldn't be surprised.
a massive BT building they should go
I
outside.
can't confirm that. I've never. I just wouldn't be able to find anything to support that really, but it's possible. But I mean the NSA bit and whether it's connected to, I should imagine it would be, because I mean they're going to have a massive telephone communications network
Yeah.
there, so
Yeah, absolutely.
and BT's like
Yeah.
like the BBC.
Yeah. Absolutely true.
But there's got to be something there, because some of these pictures, the interference, it's daytime as well.
Yes.
It's nighttime.
Yeah.
So there's something kicking out energy. I've got photographs of light waves. They're horizontal, vertical, sorry, and these are all horizontal. So it's
Yeah.
a different kind of energy that's being emitted. It's a different kind of.
Yeah. Do you know if people are still seeing ships over there or craft or whatever?
Yeah.
Is it on a regular basis?
Oh yeah, that area. I mean,
So
I
it's
went
still
to
a
a
hot spot.
pub in Alderton called the Black Swan to talk to a guy called Pete Saxon, in fact, and he had a sighting. He got it on video. Something all went wrong. I don't know. I can't remember. We went to see it anyway, and it was just a little bit of a white light. It was no good, really. But when we were at the forest at the weekend, there was a gentleman there and his family who were staying at the campsite and showed us some footage of 2 white lights and possibly 3 that he filmed when he was on his way home. He stopped the car, got out the car, put the camera on the bonnet, and you know, I thought he had hold of it because these lights are going like this, you know.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's usually when somebody's going, oh my god, before you're like, okay, right, get a grip. So he's put the thingy on the car, and these lights are literally sort of zipping about, and then they're kind of like there and move a bit up like that, and then one of them just goes like a Catherine wheel, and I was like, wow. And this was recent, very recent. Then he went back the next day, got to the same spot and filmed again so we could see, because there was a tree. You could see the tree in the shop, in the night shop, kind of the form of it. So he went back and the next day and filmed a little bit, so we've got a good idea of what it looked like in the daytime. Oh my god, even if with the military, I've got technology with massively exotic propulsion systems. Yeah. Anybody in there would have brain damage, seriously, doing that kind of manoeuvring. So, that was quite good. That was a good recent one. But when I went to this pub to talk to Pete about his sighting, there were about 6 people in there going...
Parish?
No, Pete Saxon, the guy who used to own the Black Swan. I'm not sure that he's there now. But he was telling us about his sighting, and then somebody else chipped in, and then it was like, oh, there was them 2 blokes, weren't they, on the fishing boat, and what was it, And then these other guys, Barry and Martin, came in, and they were telling me about their granddad's journal and what he'd written, and they remembered the event. That they actually remember the Christmas weekend having somebody knock on the door and tell them not to leave the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What sort of time would that be?
I think he said around about midnight.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'd have to look at my notes, because that's
interesting.
2006, that bit of information, yeah.
Oh.
So, but he did say, well, if you come back, we'll get everybody in the pub, and because I couldn't wait to get, oh yeah, I've seen this, I've seen that, and it's like, God, it's just everybody, even it's his family, they've seen stuff, and his mum won't even go into the garden on a night anymore because she's scared of the things that she's seeing out there, and it's a very active area, and I think, whatever's gone on, I don't know, really. I mean, people say about interdimensional portals and things like that. I mean, considering the amount of crazy weapons they were testing with all the electromagnetic radiation and all that's going on.
Can you name anything? I mean, any information about that? The EM weapons, weather control?
Yeah.
They have a portal there, it's active?
I don't know about that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, considering, I've kind of looked into the effects of electromagnetic radiation and the time dilations and the warping of, metals, making them become translucent.
The Hutchison effect?
That kind of stuff. It's not necessarily Hutchins, but
But along those lines.
That kind of research. I mean, it was after Hutchins. There's been other people doing that stuff. I mean, there's even private people doing that. But you're asking me too many questions. I can't answer them all. I'm not even... They were tested, the over-the-horizon radar. Yeah. That's crazy shit, bouncing things up and down. I think Cobra Mist was obviously an epic failure, and they've... I mean, if you think about it, right, in the Cold War, we are the last little landing strip between the rest of the world and Russia. Yeah. So we're pretty close. Backhanded dealings. I'm sure they were swapping information, and they got their over-the-horizon technology from the Russians, not because they were successful at what they were doing. The whole thing is that there's been series of satellites being knocked out of orbit, burned up in around about the same spot of sky. 2 in that particular weekend, but 3 others, 1 before and 2 after, I think, or maybe the other way around.
You mean which weekend are you talking about? You mean
the Christmas weekend, the incidents, So they were basically, what happens at Christmas is that the Russians were thinking, oh well, they're all pissed out the faces and rolling around and not paying attention. They'll be drunk on guard, and So what we'll do is we'll send over some extra recon and we'll
Yeah,
have a little
yeah.
nosy. But obviously we're like that, oh, well, you know, we know you're doing that, and it's just that standard
Yeah,
procedure thing. So they were skynetting, that's what I call it. You know, they were trying to knock these satellites down, and, which is the only reason I can imagine why Holt took a Geiger counter with him. It's not one of the things you'd grab, is it, really? Maybe a flask of tea, but a Geiger counter. So they're obviously expecting some radiation to be found, and that's probably on the onboard engines of the satellite. So, you know, so there's one of the reasons why I might have taken a Geiger counter out with him. But so they know these are coming over, and they want them, obviously. And there wasn't something landed in the sea. There's you know, documentation of everything. There was a search for something in the sea. So possibly they did get one down, but I reckon that they actually shot down more than the bargain for, and I think it was an ET event or interdimensional, whatever you want to call it, something not of this plane. I do believe all that. I do believe absolutely that they shot something down that they didn't even know was there. Because if, you know, let's face it, if Russians did have that kind of technology, why would we even bother going through all that palaver? They would have just invaded Europe. It would have been over.
What about the secret space program that people are talking about these days?
What's
It's part of that, the secret elite space program.
well,
Or the sort of thing that Gary McKinnon has discovered.
of course. I mean, they've built. Look at this. There we go. I came across this today when I was having a quick flick round with the skip when you came. Extreme sports for space. Metro newspaper. Space diving. Space hotels. Blah 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 blah. How on earth do they think they get all this stuff up there? The shuttle? I don't think so.
No.
I think most of the things that people see is them carrying things up and down, up and down, up and down. I've seen photographs. No, it's not on this hard drive. I've got photographs that people have sent me of mini shuttles.
Yeah.
Little ones.
Yeah.
You know. I think
the TR3
I can't remember.
production craft.
They call them in the MOD call them reusable platforms to confuse the enemy. You know, it's not it's something that carries something.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's got. I'm sure.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't surprise
I
me at all.
wonder if Gary McKinnon's saying like this geostationary docking station for. I think I've got some photos here. For the, you know, the unmanned vehicles that are kind of in the high altitude that travel at bunker speeds and stuff like that.
Well, they've initially, released information on one that was in orbit for 30, 40, 50 days. 80
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Unmanned.
It's not behaving now. Hello.
I've seen a huge craft. It would be about 5, 6 times, maybe 6 or 7 times the size of 747.
Yeah.
Clearly a shuttle, man-made of some description. Overfly Ireland.
How long ago was that, Miles?
That would be 2004 now, I think.
Interesting. Oh. There we go. Oh, it's been very slow. There you go. And what they do is they come up and they hang on the sides of them. Like this. You see?
Yeah.
Now, they can't get them up there. They don't take off from the ground. And they can't obviously have something flying it up, dropping it down. So they need them all to be up there already and drop from where they are.
Yeah.
For the altitude.
Yeah.
Dr. Carol Rosen is talking about a space-based weapons treaty.
There is definitely. Well, you see, America and Russia pulled out of the space treaty together at the same time. Then they've been to Senate and figured out how to manipulate the laws of the Sea Treaty, which is also another, ban on weapons in space. But what they can do, the legal loophole is for defence purposes.
What a surprise. Yeah.
So, it's definitely going on. They want these direct energy weapons up in space. They want to be able to fire. This is why I think the wars are so bad at the moment. They're just letting it become a big a big horrible bloody mess, then they can go, well, you know, if we have these lasers that can target, you know, specific from, you know, with pinpoint accuracy, we can reduce collateral damage. Isn't that what we all want?
Well, there's a guy, I think it's Jeff Harvey, and he was an ex-Navy guy. He did a coast-to-coast interview, which I heard, it's quite an old interview, I can't remember when it was, but he was talking about, like, in the 1970s they had that technology. He said, so, hello, I mean, you know.
They've even got weapons, kinetic weapons, that can deliver the same impact as a 1 kiloton nuclear weapon without any of the radiation. Do you know what they say they use it for? Testing nuclear bunkers. And then people are going, oh, HARP, these antennas do not have the capability of kinetically impacting an area. There's got to be something else. You know, that's like, it has, for earthquakes, like they're saying, everybody.
Well, I think it's been going on for 50 years.
But I don't think the arrays are actually capable of creating a disturbance in a tectonic plate.
I don't know about the arrays, but...
Well, yeah,
The
so it's
scalar
going to be
stuff,
something
The
else.
scalar weapon systems, are you familiar with any of that?
Well, yeah, a bit. You
Scalar
know,
weapons,
yeah, scalar weapon. I
weapons.
did look into it because I think that was partly what was going on there with it. I think that's how they were trying to bring down the satellites, because it created a scalar wave. Anything in that space, straight down.
Yeah.
Protect something underneath it, and you know, affect something above it. So yeah, and I also think that part of the experimentation was psychotronic weapons as well, which is that affect the mind.
Well, I mean, kind of, there's evidence for that with the Iraq stuff.
Well, I've got documentation,
yeah,
but I won't share it with anybody.
In what context are we dealing with psychotronic weapons? In use by whom and where?
I think this was. They knew that this was going to happen, in a sense. I'm just quite shocked, because I think that, you know, there's a bit about it that confuses me because of the way that the interrogations and the way that they manipulated the minds of the men. Obviously, they only need to take a few of them, 4 or 5, and make them believe something else happened. Now, you know, there's part of me believes that this was possibly a known event, and I know that these things happen where they know that something's going to go on.
Certainly the craft that came in to pick up the objects which landed must have been in flight before they landed, because they were slow aircraft coming from Germany.
What, the C-141s?
Yeah, that's a slow, that would have taken three hours at least to get over.
Yeah.
So that they must have either had that prepped and ready and on its way, or ready to be on its way, when the landings happen with radiation. That's on the north side.
Well, they do have a protocol for these events.
Yeah, they've got to have.
No, they do have.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've got it on there. There's a document that I found which has been updated at least 7 times since, so I do believe it's genuine, of who you contact, whose job's what, where to take the film footage, where to take this evidence and that evidence, you know, which Air Force base. It even has the telephone number and the extension number for the desk at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where is your first point of contact.
Yeah.
And then there's teams for this, that and the other, and everybody. And I gave this document to Larry, and I said to him, if you read that, I reckon that you will be able to identify those mystery groups of people that you saw, that you've written about in your book.
Yeah.
Because the departments, you know, that are specifically set up for UFO encounters at home, obviously in America, and overseas. And I think basically the MOD don't probably, and maybe never did, investigate UFO sightings because the Department of Defence has always had that remit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They follow, you see, even Nick Pope said that we didn't really set up our own protocol because we just used to follow the US rule of thumb, you know. So basically, if they've already got it set up, they've got all the bases over here. I mean, I don't know, I can't prove that, or, you know, it's just something that I kind of think. And
has Brenda come up with anything new or other material? Because she's been, her investigations have been going on, haven't they?
Well, there's bits that we agree on and I don't agree on, really. I'm not sure if I'm right or not, but I seem to think I remember saying that she's saying that it's not, it wasn't an ET event recently, but I might,
All right.
that might have been my hungover mind. Bending things out of shape that weekend, but no, I mean, I can't really comment on Brent. I've just bought a book, I haven't read it, so
Right.
Which book's this?
Sky Crash. She's revised.
That's
she's revised
basically
it.
Completely hijacked by Jenny Ratnewell.
No, but she's revised it now. This is a
And
new
she's got to
it's a
republish.
reprint, yeah.
And what's
Yeah, I was
she
gonna-
saying has changed in that book? Are you
Um,
talking Jenny Randles has republished it, or Brenda?
No, Brenda has. I don't know because I haven't read it yet. And I can't
Yeah,
comment.
Surely
really.
that's a book that was, basically a Jenny Randles book. Sky Crash.
Well, it wasn't. It was Brenda's actually.
But Brenda was written
But
by Jenny.
basically,
And the MOD.
yeah. Well, no. I don't know about the MOD, but Jenny kind of really from what people say. I don't know. I wasn't there, and I don't know Jenny. I've never met her or spoken to her. I've heard her side of the story, but it seems that she took over quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Made it more
Brenda
hers.
says that the book was given. Jenny gave the book to the MOD, who
Oh,
censored
the
it.
original. Sorry,
The
yeah.
original.
It was heavily edited by the MOD, yeah, apparently. But I don't know. I can't say
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't.
That's what they say.
Yeah. So can we now sort of go back to your first experience? Well, the major experience in is it Wales, isn't it?
Wales, yeah.
Yeah.
In a village called Glenkirioog,
Yeah.
Is that north or
Big-
south?
north. It's 16 miles away from Wrexham.
Because Wales seems to have
Near
its
Burnley,
have its fair share of
No idea.
events.
Yeah, I know a lot of people from Wales that have had experiences. I didn't know
Yeah.
anyone years ago, but
Yeah.
the more that I talk to people from around that area, then,
Yeah.
there is a lot of activity out there.
Yeah.
I think some of it's probably military, because there's a huge military base over
'Cause
there,
when you-
RAF.
Yeah, because when you went out there, if I recall, it was on holiday. You were
We just went
renting
for
a
a week.
holiday
We
cottage or something.
Me and Steve we'd been seeing each other for a little while, and we used to go off on the bike. He had a
Yeah.
motorbike. We used to go off and either go camping somewhere or go stay. Get in winter. All these
Yeah.
cottages are like next to nothing, so we'd get one of them with his uncle John. At this particular time, we decided to go, and I'm not sure if I think John might have organised it, got the house. We got there on the Friday, and there was me and Steve and my son, who was 5, and John, who is Steve's uncle, and Danya, who is Steve's sister, and she
Oh.
brought her son, who was 5 or 4. And we got there on the Friday night. Don't really remember that night at all, to be honest. I remember the next day a little bit. I know it was a bit tense. We were falling out. I don't know why. I was really irritated. I felt really edgy. Me and Danya were kind of bristling off each other a bit, and Steve, I think, was getting a bit annoyed about it all. It was a bit like that.
Yeah.
Another bit I remember was we'd been getting some firewood for the open fires, and there was one massive branch that we couldn't. And I don't know I can't remember if we had an axe or not. I don't remember, but I do remember that we were jumping on it to try and snap it, but
Yeah.
we were just being flung backwards. It was hysterical, and all, the kids were in on it, and it was a bit daft. And so, and then the next bit about the whole thing that I remember is me being upstairs, and the kids being down. Everyone else was downstairs, and I think I was going to get a bath or something. I was in the bedroom, and I know I had my bag on my bed, and I was getting stuff out, whatever, I don't know, I can't remember. And I heard Steve shouting me, like, really urgently, and I thought that it was the kids falling out because they were screeching and carrying on. Initially, the first, I just thought, oh God, what's up, So I ran downstairs, and they were just playing Power Rangers or whatever, running around in the kitchen, and Steve's like, come out here. So he goes up to stand at the dry stone wall as you go out the kitchen. There's like a gate and a wall, and just nothing, valleys, whatever, blackness, because it was dark, it was cloudy, it'd been raining, it was February, you don't get good weather necessarily even in summer in this country. So he's going, look at that, and he's pointing over, and I'm like going, I can't see anything, it's pitch black, He said, there's a light in the clouds, so I'm looking, and then eventually I saw this little tiny flicker, like, And I went, it's lightning. And he went, no, it's not, watch it. So I'm looking, and then it come on again. And I went, oh yeah. And then again, and then again. And it was moving off to the right, and it was so small and far away. And we were like, wow, that's pretty bonkers, isn't it? You know. And then it stopped. And then it came like this. And it wasn't, to my memory, flickering any, like, I don't know, it seemed to be more on because we could see it. You know, zigzagging. It came in like a zigzag towards us. And, you know, the layout of the house is sort of like, house is here, we're watching it from this wall, and then there's a field, and then the garden, and there's a patio and all that. And so it's coming over to us, and we've like got everybody else outside. All that's a bit vague as well. And I remember we were all stood along the path, which went along the front of the house. We've got the field in front of us. And it was in the clouds above the field.
Was it still looking quite small at this point?
No, not particularly. It wasn't like giant or anything, you know. It was
bigger
like,
than it was before in the... Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because it was closer to us, I would just guesstimate 50, 60 feet across. But it was a couple of 100 feet up. It was in the clouds. I always remember the clouds always touching my head. It seemed that's so imposing and close, but obviously they can't be, even though we were kind of, you know, on a bit of a hill. So we were all stood watching this thing, and then I think at some point I've noticed that the sheep were all laying down, because there was sheep in the fields. I noticed that they were all laying down, but didn't think anything of it, you know. And then it moved from being above the field to being right over the top of us, and we were all looking up at it like this. And I remember looking, and Daniel was stood on the wall, like there was a little bit of a wall, and her face, I mean, her eyes were massive, you know, just like looking at this thing, and it was just blue white light all over everybody. It was crazy. John's going, it's the Aurora Borealis. And I went, is it hell? And you know, because of that statement, I didn't talk to that man, even though he lived in Leeds. I thought, I can't talk to him about that. He thought with the Aurora Borealis. I don't want to feel stupid, and I don't want to melt his head. But anyway, so I'm stood there. Louis stood next to me, and he's tugging on me, and I looked at him and I went, what? And he went, Mummy, there's a hand just come through the hedge and touched my foot. He said, it wasn't my imagination. I saw it with my eyes. And so I turned to Steve and went, oh, the kids are getting scared. And he said, come on, we'll take them back inside. So we went, all right. Instead of going, looking, or, you know, if it said to me there was a monster under his bed, I'd be like, light on, there you go, look, there's no monster. Yeah. Didn't even impact for a second what it said. In fact, I think I've jumped a bit there, because there was a point when it was over us, when we were all looking at it, that there was a strobe from behind, like a real fast like that, just for a couple of seconds, and looked behind, and I went, oh look, there's another one. Had come out of it, obviously, had gone down. It come down behind the house and underneath some trees. How it ever got under there, I have no idea. The manoeuvrability of it must have been awesome. So we'd forgotten about that instantly. Right, so obviously, you know...
Was it? Could you tell what kind of a shape it was?
It was a sphere, and it was probably...
Both of them?
Both of what?
There was the bigger one, and then...
It was in the sky.
And then there was a...
And then the second one that came out... Yeah, well, I didn't see it come out of it. I'm making massive assumptions there. All I know is that there was a sphere on the ground, and it was pulsing like every other second, this grey-white light, and it had mist coming out and round it like this. Yeah. And we all just forgot about it and carried on looking up at this thing. And then that's when Louis said that. And so we took him back in the house, and Steve just started doing the dishes, and John and Daniel walked into the living room and started watching TV, and the kids just started playing, and I'm like... And
nobody said anything?
Like, no.
Just...
Nothing.
Wow.
Right, and it was just like we'd been out, watched a few fireworks. It's raining, let's get inside, you know, everybody gone back inside, and just... But the whole thing, we weren't even behaving properly. I mean, why would you even forget that something had landed behind you? Why would you not even think anything about a hand? He said to me, he thought it was the hedge. But then he realised it was a hand and it touched his foot. Then, well, I've just stood there and I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I went, fuck this. I walked straight back outside by myself. Nobody tried to stop me. I didn't think it was a bad idea. Didn't see the one on the floor. Completely out of mind. It must have not been glowing anymore or whatever. I have no idea. It just totally. And I went and stood right underneath it. Looked up and I know I had my hands on my hips. And I was thinking, now what? Woohoo! I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Even now, I'm saying this and I think you sound so unbelievable because everyone will go, oh, you won't behave like that. If something like that, you'd do whatever. Trust me, you wouldn't. Why we didn't get in that car and bugger off, or like even Steve went in and phoned the shared house that we lived in to tell everybody what was going on. He didn't phone the police or anything, you know, just nothing. Absolutely. Can't figure any of it out, any of that behaviour stuff really, because why would you even go out by yourself knowing that there's something on the floor and something, your son's just said that he's seen a hand, even that he was only 5, don't matter, his face said it all, he was terrified. So I stood looking up at it and then I had someone running behind me. And I don't care what anyone says, that thing was small, fast, and it had 2 feet, it was bipedal. The way it was running, it sounded like my little lad running across the room to get a toy, you know, and you put them in bed and they go, ooh, quick.
Yeah.
It was like that, da-da-da-da-da. And something bumped into my back. And the next thing I remember I was running, but I didn't even realise I was running until I was running. I was like, oh my God, I'm running, but I couldn't see anything, I was blind. Completely.
And so you would be just running right to the field?
No, I was running back to the house.
Oh, right.
No, because I haven't explained really, have I? Where I was stood, I've got like there's the field with the sheep, there's a wall here with a tree or something. A hedge, which is where the hand came through, and then behind the hedge was like a little wall, which is what Daniel stood on a little bit further up. So there's a path and there's like a little mound of packed earth, we had nothing growing on it, and a chicken wire fence which came from the side of the house along, and then the copse of trees behind that, which is where that the sphere had gone. So this is what I've puzzled. Where could it have gone? Whatever it was. If it had been a sheep, a child, a dog running on 2 legs doing circus tricks, whatever, had nowhere to go. I was stood at the wall. The thing's there, the field's there, you'd have to jump over and down to get into the field. So that had puzzled me for a long time. But over the years, obviously, I've talked to a lot of people, and I've actually now believe that the bump was me going up, and I hit the ground running. Blind panic. You know, it's the only thing I can really explain because it couldn't have gone anywhere. And actually, Joe Montaldo, who I speak to quite a bit, he's said that usually you feel it when they put you back. I don't know if that's true or not, without regression, which I can't do. Too fragile. You know, I've got a young family that I cannot afford to lose my mind again. And what I remember is enough for me, you know.
And have there been other instances from that point onward?
There's been quite a few actually, and I know it sounds corny, but it did actually make me wonder about other weird things in my past that I couldn't explain easily. These little anecdotes from my parents about me vanishing as a baby and not being able to be found anywhere in the house, and then turning up in a cupboard under blankets with the door shut and trapped between the bed and the wall and things like that, which I could just imagine me being a monkey, you know what I mean? But then you think, maybe. But I do remember as a child I used to leave the house on the night all the time, and my mum and dad used to lock the door, so I'd climb out the kitchen window. When we had a 300-year-old cottage, the doors were only about that high. My dad had to make them all into archways so we could get through them. So I just used to jump out the kitchen window, and I always remember going across the road and there was never any traffic or anything. This is York Road in Seacroft. Going over to Parklands Fields, and I just remember this bank of lights, and I'd always assumed that they were like floodlights or whatever, but there's never been any on there. I went back a few years ago and I'm looking, there's a street light that side of the field, there's a street light right down there, and I'm like, well, what was I seeing there's never been. I've talked to people there, and it's like no, never would put floodlights in Seacroft. They'd only be there for 2 minutes before they got weighed in for scrap, or somebody's cannabis cultivation or whatever. Anyway, so that's puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, but could be. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying definitely things happened. I mean, I've had that experience, I've said to you, at Brenda's. But the most significant, really, one that I had in September, end of September 2007, when staying with Anne Andrews and her family. Yeah. Paola Harris was there. She was doing a talk for Norfolk UFO Group, so I'd gone to review it for UFO Data magazine because I was writing for them at the time. And it was all a jolly good date for me, you know, a bit of an adventure. And gone down on the train, I was ever so excited. Ellis had gone missing, nobody could find him, get hold of him. Something strange was going on there. Anyway, he'd gone through some terrible stormy weather that had never happened, and a couple of hours of missing time.
And just remind us who Ellis is.
Ellis Taylor. He's quite fairly well known. He's a numerologist. He's, you know, experiencer. He's a nice guy. And so there was a few people there, and I cannot remember this couple's name. They were lovely people as well. And we were all staying in the house. Now, when I got there, Paola was completely freaked out, and I'm not staying in this house another night. I've had people calling my name and people going up and downstairs, all sorts of weird stuff. She took some photographs of Jason's bedroom, which is where she was sleeping, which has got its own story to it anyway. Yeah. And the weird pictures, weird. So we took her to the local travel lodge, and she booked in there, and went back to the house, and sort of all stood outside, and we're all smokers, you know what I mean? Well, we're all emotional wrecks, aren't we? So we're all outside having a cig and talking about Paul's Rolls Royce that he's just had imported from California, I think. A really old-fashioned white one. He does wedding. He's got wedding business thing. And anyway, this bird just landed on the floor like that, and I didn't see it because I was sort of staring at the camera.
Dead.
No, just stunned.
No. Oh right. Okay.
And it had flown. Ellis and this other guy and Paul. This bird had flown into something that nobody could see. It just hit it and fell, landed on the floor, and I saw it land on the floor. I mean, there was nothing, no trees or anything, so. You know what I mean? I have to believe him. Yeah. He just, you know. So that was like another weird bit, and then it comes to night time, and Anne says she's like going, so who's going to stay in Jason's bedroom then? And I'm like going, oh, I will, you know.
Can we pick up that story in the next part?
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a really nice part.
Okay. Yeah.